All right, thank you, Michael Massaro. And you've got the latest news from NASCAR now. We're going to give you the latest on happy hour, or if your car's not running very good at the end of the show, it's another word that rhymes with happy. And we're going to have a lot of fun as we get ready for tomorrow night's Sprint Cup race as the chase continues. And, of course, a big weekend last weekend for 2008 Series champion Jimmie Johnson. Remember what happened at the Pepsi 500 at Auto Club Speedway? He posted his second chase win in 4 races and jumped from second to first in the points championships. He's now scored 19 top 10 finishes in 09 and looks to be on his way for a 4th straight unprecedented Sprint Cup championship. Here are the 12 chasers and where they will start, and you can see exactly the point differential, and you notice that it's an all-Hendrick front row again. Jimmie Johnson, Mark Martin, 1 and 2. Juan Pablo Montoya's got a little work as he's back at 18th. Greg Biffle at 23rd, but the worst is Brian Vickers all the way back in 30th position. Jimmie Johnson already back in the garage. He turned his fastest lap on lap number 2. And Juan Montoya, well, let's get an update on him from Shannon Spade.
Well, Marty, just minutes into Thursday's practice, Juan Pablo Montoya made contact with the 31 of Jeff Burton, damaging the grille of the 42 car. While the team worked very quickly to get that grille repaired, crew chief Brian Patty told me this morning it really put them behind, and the speeds reflected that. As you said, Montoya qualified 18th for Sunday's race. Now, Patty also told me that the team had some fabricators come to the track this morning to properly repair the front end of that car, and he said while the cosmetic damage is definitely taken care of, this practice session today will be primarily used to catch up. He also says he wants to work on the long runs, and they need to get this weekend turned around. Jamie?
Well, Shannon, at this point in the season, all eyes are on the chase drivers, but the reality is there's a lot of other stories in the field. Brad Keselowski is one of those guys. Every time he's in a Cup car, we like to watch him. Now, this will mark his final Cup start for Hendrick Motorsports. He's working with crew chief Tony Uri Jr., and they qualified 8th last night. A great effort. Now, he also told me he's aware that 3 of his teammates are going for the championship, but he told me he has the same goal, and that is to win. Right now, they just want to get this car up to speed, Marty, in what is happy hour.
All right, thank you. As we come topside, let's talk a little bit about the fact that in both practice sessions, first and now this last one, over half the field has set their fastest lap right at the very get-go, lap number 1. But that's not what we're really worried about, is it?
Well, sometimes you do worry about that speed. You want to see your car up on that speed chart. You don't want to see it down below, even though it's not that telling on how good a car you're going to have in a long run. But it still is, to me, very important to see that my car number up on the top in these practice sheets.
Yeah, that's always nice as a driver. You come in and see that your car has that fast speed and has that in it. But the biggest thing that you want to take care of is being out there 10, 12, maybe even 20 laps at a time. See what my car will do then, because that's the most important thing. We get long runs here in these races over 500 miles. That's when my car needs to be the best as a driver. And as we go back out on the track, that's exactly what we're going to do, is keep tabs on the 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. As you see right now, Brian Vickers on the course.
We heard Shannon talking about Montoya, and they were working on those long run setups. He's 25th on the speed chart. That doesn't look good when you glance up at it, but if you look at the 10 lap averages, he shows up in the top 5. He's 4th when he averaged 10 laps of their run. So it's working, whatever they're working on to make a long run setup.
Yeah, when I look at that, Montoya ran his fastest lap on his 3rd lap. Marty was pointing out that most of the guys were running on the 1st lap. Tells me that his car started out a little bit loose and then was coming to him and getting better as he ran on.
Yeah, if you look at the top 10 speeds, only Jimmie Johnson ran his fastest lap on lap 2. Everybody else ran their fastest lap the very first lap on the track.
Casey Kane's numbers right there on the screen for you as we go on board with him. All 43 cars have now turned out for this practice session that will lead us right into tonight's coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series.
We ride along with Casey Kane. He has been one of the cars to beat here, if not the car to beat. Let's watch his line. Watched him in the earlier practice session. In 3 and 4, he was running a little bit higher line than you see right now.
See, this track still has a lot of grip, able to get a lot of throttle, literally back a little bit before the center of the corner. Very little brake. You see going down the front straightaway into turn 1 here. See a little bit of brake as he goes underneath Jeff Burton there.
Boy, very little brake. He is flying through the middle of the corner. Clears Jeff Burton, almost gets him cleared. Actually, Jeff's coming back on the outside.
You can see he's really, that's where not using that brake. When Casey Kane has a good race car, we'll see him be able to do exactly that. His car's really fast in into the center. That's where he carries a lot of speed, and then that helps him on the exit.
Kane 10th on the speed charts right now, and 2 spots back, Jeff Burton. Checking in right now with Carl Edwards, who will start on pole a little bit later this evening in the nationwide race. There you can see where he is right now, and it hasn't been as good a weekend over on this side of the equation as it has been on the nationwide side.
That's kind of been the story of his season, really. They just haven't been able to put the numbers on the board in the Cup Series. Had a fairly good nationwide series so far.
Yeah, they struggle to get the speed out of it a lot of times. And we saw Carl last night before qualifying. He was kind of hopeful after seeing some of the other cars, other Fords, get some good efforts in, but he wasn't able to get in a good qualifying lap. And as we look now at the top 10 speeds here, there's only one Ford that has a fast time up in there, and that's Paul Menard. So these guys are really just struggling right now. To say it's horsepower, it's hard to believe it's all that. It's just a combination of everything, because we know Doug Yates and his team of people do a great job in the engine room.
All right, let's check in on Jimmy Johnson, because he has already done a 10-lap run. Guess what? He's been the fastest in 10 laps by, about half a mile an hour.
We've been here 2 days now, and he has not been topped in anything. Qualifying, practice, all 3 practice sessions, 5-lap, 10-lap averages, you name it. He's been on the top.
Let's get more from Shannon Spake.
Just speaking with the team, they're telling me that the car's just been a little bit tight, but they're just tinkering with things, trying some new things, looking for speed, looking to get the car right, because this man in the 48 car has been on top of the speed charts all weekend long, qualifying both practice sessions so far. He is very fast. But I got a question for you guys. Jimmy Johnson was one of the drivers who competed in the tire test, or I'm sorry, participated in the tire test here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. How much does that help this team?
Well, it doesn't hurt, Shannon. Just laps help. Even though that tire test was back before the May race, there's still a lot of things that you can learn from that. And they've learned a lot since then that they can apply to what they knew about the tire and how it acts on this racetrack. So, yeah, it's definitely an advantage.
I want to go back to what you were talking about a little bit earlier, the fact that no one has topped him in any of these sessions. DJ, how frustrating does this get for the other drivers in the chase and for the rest of the field?
Certainly adds a lot of pressure to them. They know that these guys are on their game right now. They always bring it whenever we get down to this time of year. And whenever they come to these racetracks and they do everything that Andy talked about, then that just makes you try some other things and then adds more pressure to already a pressure-packed situation. So Chad and Jimmy are the best at it.
How many crew chiefs would like to have a peek inside that notebook? Let's talk about what's going to be coming up on the calendar. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from Charlotte. We'll have the Banking 500 at 7 Eastern tomorrow on ABC. And then we'll have NASCAR Nationwide Series at Charlotte. That's our race coming up next right here on ESPN2. And then NASCAR Now at 10 a.m. tomorrow and 12:45 a.m. late night on Saturday, both on ESPN2. Stay with us as Jimmy takes it back to adjust on what. I have no clue, because the car's been running on a rail. But we'll try and find out what they're doing. The view from high above Lowe's Motor Speedway as we are in happy hour for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series for the race tomorrow night right here under the lights. As it is Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin on top of the speed charts again. And when we look at the 10-lap runs, it's Jimmy Johnson in front of everybody else. How about Kurt Busch as we check in on the number 2? He is mired back in 35th right now.
Yeah, that's not where we're used to seeing Kurt Busch here lately.
No, but they've been struggling since they pretty much unloaded yesterday, too. They just haven't seemed to get the balance that Kirk is looking for to make that fast lap.
Well, he dropped one position in the Chase Championship last week at the Auto Club Speedway from 5th down to 6th. He's 121 points behind. Certainly not out of it, but can't afford to keep sliding backwards. Denny Hamlin, another guy who has to move up and has moved up. He's 3rd in this practice session with a best time of 29.23, and he is 2nd in the 10-lap average, guys.
Yeah, he had a good car last week. Probably maybe a winning car, but probably at least a top 5 car. Took himself out trying to block the inside on a restart. Didn't quite have Juan Montoya clear.
Then he lost 120 points last week. He dropped like a brick, 3 spots from 6th down to 9th. He cannot afford another week like that.
No, that was a huge blow to his championship hopes, most definitely. But you can't give up right now. You have to go do everything that you possibly can to making your car good on a long run. Is what's going to give you your best chance at getting back in this here at Charlotte tomorrow night.
Checking in on Juan Pablo Montoya. He is 24th on the charts, and they've been a little bit behind since that little nose job they had to take care of that we talked about earlier. Let's take you back in case you weren't with us last night to show you exactly what happened.
Well, they were in a race trim. They had a short practice session, but this team decided to go out in race trim. You can see right there, Jeff Burton had got out of the throttle coming off the corner and surprised Montoya, and they got into the back of him. This really set them behind because then they didn't get the race runs in that they wanted to make. Then they had to kind of switch over to qualifying trim. Didn't get that really like they wanted and didn't end up getting the qualifying run they were looking for. So that kind of put them a little bit behind today too. So even though they're 24th on the speed chart, like I said earlier, in the top 10, in the 10 lap averages, he's in the top 5. Shannon?
Well, just speaking to the team, they told me that the first practice, Juan Pablo Montoya, the car was tight, and now it's loose. So they're just battling with the balance of this car, trying to get it right for the 42. And like I told you at the beginning of the show, just trying to play catch up for the entire weekend.
Yeah, I've watched him run both practice sessions. He's been one of the cars that's run the highest on this racetrack pretty much throughout all of his laps. But if he's got fighting a looser race car now, the track has cooled down since that first session, probably got more front grip, and that's caused his car to be a little bit free.
Well, here's another thing too. If he's committed to running that high lane, it's not going to show up a fast lap in practice. You're not going to see that show up, but it may show up tomorrow in the race. As this race wears on and he can make that high groove work, he can use that to move himself to the front.
Well, how about Mark Martin? He is 2nd on the charts, and he is also 12 points, 2nd place in the chase, losing the lead last week at Auto Club Speedway. Let's listen in on the team communication.
I don't know, Alan. It feels okay, but I hate we changed 2 things at once because I don't know, you know, times aren't as good, and I don't know if it's because the tires are hot or what the deal is. It drove okay. Did it turn any better at all? I don't know. It's just, I don't know, buddy.
Mark Martin fans at home, don't worry. They are not struggling. They are just trying some new things. I just caught up with the team, and they told me, we're good. We're just tinkering around. We're trying new things, trying to get a little more speed. Obviously, that last thing Mark Martin did not like. So right now, the team is happy with that 5 car. But, guys, the question I have for you is, when you have a session like this and your car is good, can you dial yourself out?
Oh, yeah, Shannon, you can, and that's one thing you got to be careful of. And I hear the frustration there with Mark because it's very important a lot of times just to change one thing at a time. That way you go out there and evaluate what you've done, and you can get a really honest assessment. Now, if you change 2 things and you run about the same, then you go, well, was one better, one worse, and even it out? Or that's what it really kind of confuses you.
Well, he's won 5 races this year, and we've heard this kind of conversation pretty much every week. And I'm going back to a conversation that Jeff Gordon had in New York on the media tour the week before Loudon after the chase was announced. Everybody was in, and he said the only time this year that Mark Martin has come into their meetings after a practice session and said that his car was really good, he was happy, he spanked everybody at Chicago. So he says the next time that happens, he comes in and is not complaining about his car, then he's going to put his car over just like that. So this is nothing different than what we hear from Mark most of the time.
All right, so as happy hour continues, cars being adjusted back in the garage area, we're going to get an adjustment up here, and we'll see in just a few minutes. Back here at the Sprint Cup Happy Hour, you're watching Marcus Ambrose sort of manhandling the 47. He's got a nice position right now. He's running 7th and running some very consistent laps in the 29-second bracket.
Yeah, watching inside the car here, looks like he's pretty comfortable with it, making some good speed. We will be talking with him tomorrow night. He's our in-race reporter. Marcos, he probably thinks I'm the one that has the accent. So we'll talk and see how that works out between the 2 of us.
And there he is on the outside view as well. If you've got a question, just log on to ESPN.com, ask the driver, and who knows, maybe it'll be your question that'll be asked by DJ in that slightly southern lilt to Marcus in his Australian twang. And Marcus decides to bring it on in after making a run here, as we'll shift our coverage around a little bit more. Check in on the 83 of Brian Vickers. He is 22nd on the speed charts right now. Jamie, you've got more?
Well, Marty, this is definitely a team that needs a solid run. They've just had bad luck since the chase began. They find themselves at the bottom right now in 12th position. Things weren't any better yesterday. At the start of practice, the car wouldn't start. It turned out to be a solenoid problem. And for an explanation on that, let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer. What is that all about, Tim?
Thanks, Jamie. A few years ago, we had problems with the starters literally breaking off the car. We had electrical wires running out. So what we came up with, Ford Motor Company came up with an idea, and this starter solenoid. When your driver flips the starter switch, you actually see the switch engaged right here. But where we put it is where we can have great access to it. Follow this red light right here. The starter wire comes off, actually goes out to the starter that's hooked to the engine, and when they activate the starter switch, it's just as simply a relay that goes out and engages the starter. Jamie?
Thanks, Tim. And those problems have been resolved in the 83 right now. Just trying to make it more effective in the middle. They said they're a little bit free, so they made a track bar adjustment and rubber. They're seeing if this will help out, Marty.
All right, thank you, Jamie. You know, one of the things I was marveling at watching qualifying last night, 29 drivers were faster than the pole speed here in May. And this is now the fastest track with this new car of today. And your guys' impression on all that?
Well, it's just we've had such great weather conditions. It's been very, very cool, and it's and really the guys have learned a lot about this race car, and they've made it faster every week. And you know, it's just a product of that much time that these guys had to work with it. And the weather conditions, I think all that added up for fast speeds.
This is the car that Andy did not want to be seen on the screen, because now I get to ask him about Megatron. That's the paint scheme for Jeff Gordon this week. And Andy doesn't know a single thing about Transformers.
Is he the good guy or the bad guy?
He's a bad guy.
Okay.
He is a bad guy.
He looks pretty good.
Have you ever played with one of those Transformers?
No, I can't say that I have. Do you have some?
I have a 6-year-old grandson that has every single one of them. And boy, is it a hot ticket item. Okay. Andy?
Okay. You know what? This is ballast that they've had in the car, and I don't know exactly why. Maybe this is to take up for the driver's weight, to do some scaling of the car and to get the setup right here. And I guess they're taking it out now so Montoya can get back in.
Well, either Juan Montoya's put on a lot of weight, or those bags don't weigh as much as we think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always hated when they had to do that. It just took them forever to get all the weight out of there for me. It just seemed like a little bit embarrassing.
Well, there you see Jeff's numbers right there, as he's 12th right now. And Tony Stewart, who will be running in the race tonight in the Nationwide Series, only his 3rd start this year in the Nationwide Series. And he said that the adjustment back and forth was really giving him some fits, especially going over to the Nationwide side.
He'll figure it out pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, he ran at Daytona, and there's really no adjusting there. He went on to run Texas and finished 2nd, but that's been a long time ago, and it is an adjustment because there is so much difference. You got a ton of horsepower here and not a whole lot in that Nationwide car.
You see, he's 11th right now. I want to throw this one out for you. 6 of the top 12s are Chevrolets, all Hendrick engines, and we talked about domination of the sport. Is it good for one team or one operation to have this kind of domination?
Well, that's good for Rick Hendrick.
Well, yeah.
I can tell you that. But
absolutely.
As far as the sport itself, you know, we'd rather see more parity, but I think we do. I mean, we don't see Hendrick cars winning every race. They're pretty dominant right now when you look at it, but no, I don't think it's good to be dominant, but that's what you strive for as an owner. When I was an owner, I tried to be the best every week, and if I could have ever gotten to the point where Hendrick is, I'd have been extremely happy.
Yeah, and I think the fans would probably tell you they like to see a lot of different people win, or at least have the opportunity to win races. The one thing you have to look back on as we talk about the Hendrick organization, we have 2 opportunities for history. We could have this guy right here, Mark Martin, become our oldest champion, or we could have Jimmy Johnson, his teammate, to win 4 consecutive championships. So that's what history is about. You have to make that history to have something to talk about down the road. And you have to have organizations like the Hendrick organization to make things like that happen. So there's two sides to it. But yeah, it's great, really, if we can have a lot of different opportunities to talk about a lot of different drivers having a chance to win races and championships.
Well, Mark Martin's still out there on a long run. Shannon, what are you hearing?
Well, right now what the team is doing, they're bringing Mark in, they're putting stickers and filling it with fuel just to see how loose that car is on the start of the runs. But Mark Martin, he's extremely happy with that car. In fact, before he went out on this most recent run, he said, hey guys, I think we're going to be better than we were before. In fact, he went out and dropped almost half a second on his lap time. So definitely that 5 car's taken off.
And we mentioned, as you see Mark's numbers right there, 5 wins in the last 23 races. Only 5 in the previous 313. Gives you an idea just how strong the Hendrick team is. Here's another example. They have been extremely good, these 3, here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Missing from that, of course, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. And he had some things to say today. We'll get into that when we get a chance when we come back. Well, tomorrow night, we're at the halfway point of the 2009 NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. It's second in the chase for Mark Martin. He's tied with Bobby Allison and Cale Yarborough for the most 500-mile wins with 3. Can he retake the points lead? Tune in at 7 Eastern tomorrow on ABC to find out for the NASCAR Banking 500 only from Bank of America. That was a great view of all the tracks here at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Well, the lights just make the cars look so nice. This is a beautiful car right here for Ryan Newman. The other Transformers, this must be the good guy.
This is the good guy. This is Optimus Prime. There you go.
See, I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
Tell you got to spend time with my grandson. He'll take care of you. He'll get you squared away.
It's really hard for me to think of Jeff Gordon as a bad guy.
I know.
That's the only thing. Not that either one of them needed to be the bad guys. Both pretty good guys in my book.
There we go. Is that
Newman
good
6th.
versus bad?
No,
Yeah.
right now, good is ahead. Newman is 6.
It
Jeff
will
Gordon
always
is 12.
win out. Good will always win out.
There you go. Okay.
Both cars look pretty cool, though, especially under these lights, don't they?
Shannon, you got more on Jeff?
Well, I wish that you guys could take a look at some of the team members of the 24 team. They are tired. They have been very busy today in practice. I actually just went up and spoke to them and asked them what they've changed on this car, and they said, everything except the left front spring, and I think that they were serious guys. They're right now just trying to work on the balance of this car. They say that it is good in 3 and 4 and loose in 1 and 2, and just trying to balance out the corners for the 24, who has come on so strong in the last couple weeks. And guys, you know he's knocking on the door for that victory.
And they're making headway, Shannon. Looking at their practice times here, they've moved up on the board. They actually ran their fastest lap on the 17th lap, meaning that they've really helped it. So moved up to 12th. That's a good sign for the 24 team.
Yeah, they've been performing a lot better. You know, it's that really that first race, that 15th place finish at Loudon that set them back a little bit, because they've had a couple of second place finishes the last 2 weeks. So they're right there in case Jimmy and Mark and Montoya happen to falter just a little bit.
He picked up 2 spots last week, moved up to 5th, and we've talked about it. If you survive Talladega and you're within 100, 150 points, you got a pretty good shot still of being in the chase.
I think that's one thing, Dale, though, that is frustrating Jeff, is that he doesn't want to be there to take advantage of somebody having a problem. He wants to be the man to beat. He's really, really close to being there, too.
Paul Menard, 8th right now in the final practice, and looking like and is the only Ford in the top 13.
Paul has had his moments this year of running pretty good, of having a fast race car. They just haven't been able to really put it all together. You'd really like to see this happen for Doug Yates and that team, and for Paul and all of his guys. They could put together a really solid run for an entire 500-mile race like tomorrow night.
Yeah, Paul's such a good guy. He's very steady and he brings the car home in one piece every week, and that helps you to build a program. He drove for me in the Nationwide Series in his first season, and he's a lot of fun to work with, and he has made a lot of ground. And he's just before breaking through that threshold of getting up there and getting those top 5 finishes.
And as we move our coverage around, we're trying to find the 19 car of Elliott Sadler in a pink paint scheme. A lot of cars here this weekend, both series, Nationwide and in Sprint Cup, showing the colors in support of the Susan G. Komen breast cancer research. And Elliott, of course, as you well know, DJ has personal experience with this.
Sure does. His mom, Belle, is winning her battle with breast cancer. Just a wonderful lady and that entire family, and this is certainly something that's very near and dear to Elliott's heart, so he's glad to run this pink combination here this weekend.
Right now, 34th on the charts. His best lap was back on lap 7. He's run 23 so far. We were talking about the long runs. Elliott's not showing up in any of those top categories as well, so this team still has some answers to find.
Yeah, you know, and as I look over here, we only have 2 cars that's really run in that 15-lap bracket as far as longer runs. We don't see as much of that anymore, Andy, and I think my theory is that because they don't get testing, they try to use these sessions more to work on a lot of things instead of getting out there and seeing if something works for a longer period of time.
Well, that's exactly right, because if you go out there and run a 20-lap run, it takes a long time. It takes a big chunk of your practice time. You could take that same amount of time and maybe get in 3 or 4 changes and then come back afterward and evaluate how they work. Yeah, you'd like to know how they would work in 20, 25 laps, but that's a luxury, really, that's not afforded right now because there is no testing, and you have to use these practice sessions just like a test session.
There you see Bill Elliott's numbers. He's been mired in near the bottom in all the practice sessions, and a 40th right now.
I'm surprised at this. You know, this 21 car has been a really fast race car in a lot of places this year, and I would have thought that here they would have really put a lot better performance out there, but you know, it's still early.
Yeah, this definitely hasn't been the norm for them. They haven't run a lot, but when they have run, they've had a lot of speed in the race car. Just shows you how difficult this place is.
While all this goes on out on the track, Greg Biffle's car is back in the garage. Jamie, what's going on?
Well, he's 14th on the board right now, and he came in with concern by the way his car was running. This was his radio moments ago.
Oh, your fuel pressure. Talk to me about it. When I left, it was vapor locking or something when I was going down the backstretch. Running out of gas, I figured out it's just the first lap. Hold 6 pounds, it wouldn't really run. Going around the corner, next lap, the red light's on and it's sputtering going down the straightaway, about 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds. Next lap, next corner, it was at 9 pounds. That back straightaway was down at 6, and it doesn't feel like it's running right.
And they made some quick adjustments. They were back in the garage for about 4 minutes. Hopefully they made the difference. They went back out on track, but let's check in with Tim Brewer again in the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim, what were they talking about?
Thanks, Jamie. These new fuel pumps are cable driven. We drive the cables off the back of the camshaft in the engine, or we have the option of driving off the oil pump. But where it sets at the rear firewall. The cable runs beneath the car, and right here is the fuel pump. But what Biffle's describing to me, it seems like the fuel pickup in the fuel cell might be the problem, because these cable-driven fuel pumps are basically bulletproof. You have very little problem with them as long as you make sure that you have the cable inserted in the fuel pump. And see how much variation you got right here? Sid Waterman worked a long time to make sure that there's adequate supply shaft in that pump to where you don't have any problems whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's just that pump either works or it doesn't. It's not going to be intermittent if it's a cable problem. Now, what he's telling me right there, what I'm hearing from Greg Biffle is it could be somehow getting air from the suction side of that pump, and that would cause some fluctuations in that pressure.
Yeah, fuel pressure and electrical problems. There's nothing more aggravating to a crew chief, is there, Andy?
Yeah, I'm telling you, you can chase this stuff around, and sometimes you just got to go in there, especially after this is the last practice session. If they don't actually find a problem that can, you know, that's a smoking gun, then they got to go in there and change basically everything. I mean, start at the pickup and start working your way all the way to the carburetor.
Well, we've talked about teams in the chase. How about cars just chasing all year long? And here's one of them, Robbie Gordon. Although looking very good here in the final practice, 4th on the charts. Being able to translate that week in and week out to good finishes has been their biggest challenge.
Well, it has been, but you know, this is a team that, you know, Robbie runs it himself and makes a lot of the decisions and things to happen. You know, he's really trying to do this almost by himself, and that's almost impossible to do this day and time. So give him some credit for staying out here. He looks like he has a fast race car here. The car runs some pretty consistent laps, so maybe they've found some things as they move here to Charlotte that are going to give them an opportunity to run pretty well.
He's a very talented race car driver. Won a lot of races, or won races with Richard Childress, and it seems his best success has been driving for Richard Childress in a bigger organization. But this is a guy that really really likes to run his own deal. He likes having his own race team. He likes making the decisions. This is just who he is. So he's very comfortable in that role. Unfortunately, it just hasn't been the performance level that he's actually had his best results like he did with Childers.
Well, and like so many others, he's in the big sponsor hunt for next year as well. So without the cash, there is no dash. Let's talk about what's going to be happening tomorrow night. The halfway mark here at Lowe's Motor Speedway for the 2009 NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. Second of 4 chase races on the 1.5-mile tracks. Tony Stewart won the first one just last week. It's the NASCAR Banking 500 only from Bank of America. 7 Eastern tomorrow on ABC. Stay with us. It's Friday night everywhere across the country, and that means it's football night. In fact, that's where the good doctor is. Jerry Punch is over at home in Knoxville. His daughter was voted to the homecoming court, and he gets to escort her out. And we were glad enough to give him the night off so he could go back to Knoxville and do that. That's going to be fun for him, and he'll be back tomorrow for the race. Back here over at Lowe's Motor Speedway, the time is winding down, and we promised an update on Dale Earnhardt Jr. If you saw NASCAR Now, you heard his comments. It is one dejected race car driver behind the wheel of the 88. Let me give you just one of the comments. Yeah, I don't feel like I have any control. Rick Hendrick has put me in a great position, but I haven't made the most of it. For whatever reason, we're just not getting it done. I don't know what to do.
This obviously is a young man that's lost some of his confidence. He has a tremendous amount of ability, but things haven't gone his way. Even when they've had some pretty good runs, they find themselves in the middle of an accident or a flat tire, something happening, and it's really easy. This can be a really cruel business and cruel sport if you're not careful. You can't let it get to you too much. He has to understand that he has the talent to do this. It's a matter of getting yourself surrounded by the right people. Is he that right now? That's really hard to say. We've seen improvement, but he needs to make sure that he doesn't lose total confidence in himself as a driver, because he can get the job done. He's proven that to us. He just needs to get that back.
And just the fact that he is driving a car right out of the Hendrick stable doesn't mean that everything is perfect, okay? It still takes that combination, that chemistry between the crew chief and driver and team to make it work on the racetrack. And we see that with Mark Martin and Alan Gustafson. They have such a great relationship. Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals, and really Steve Letarte and Jeff Gordon. They all have that magic going. And Junior just hasn't found the magic for his crew chief yet.
You know, and let's go back a lot of years when Rick Hendrick put together the dream team with Darrell Waltrip and Waddell Wilson. They were going to win every single race there was. They didn't win many. And we knew that Darrell Waltrip was a great race car driver. Waddell Wilson built the best engines in the world, but they couldn't make it happen together. So it's not, it doesn't always work like it looks like it should on paper.
And Lance McGrew is a very, very capable crew chief.
Sure.
They just haven't found that magic yet. And it is frustrating for everyone.
Jamie?
Well, something that Dale Earnhardt Jr. mentioned today as well that he gets frustrated about that happened this weekend is he said, last night we went out and we practiced top 15. Then we go out and qualify 39th, and nobody has answers. I can't answer it. My crew chief can't answer it. That's what he's getting frustrated about. And he said, I'm about at the end of my rope. They don't know what else to do. And in this practice session, guys, they were really trying to turn things around, but they're 31st on the board right now. They just can't find the magic, as you guys were saying here at Lowe's.
And it's just the pressure really has been tough on Junior. I mean, the relationship he had with Tony Uri Jr., his cousin, there was so much public pressure out there. Why Junior's not winning? Why we're not doing better? That basically they had to fire Tony Uri Jr. And now he's over here calling the shots on this 25 car for Brad Keselowski, and he's doing a great job. He's a very capable crew chief.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't get those answers. They don't just come right in front of you. I tell Junior, if I can talk to him right now, hey man, get out and look. Yeah, you're not where you want to be at 31st, but look right behind you. There's Carl Edwards. He's in the chase. Yeah, he almost won the championship. Kurt Busch is back there, and you've got a lot of other very respectable race drivers that are back there too. So it does take time to build that back. Keep at it, man. You'll get it.
Well, you mentioned Brad Keselowski. Let's take a look at the 10-lap averages and show you who has been good in those runs. You can see Brad is 5th behind Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Juan Pablo Montoya. And this will be his last run in this car for this year. And remember, he switches over to Dodge and Roger Penske next year. Stay with us. Happy hour. Wind it down. Well, we're following the story here in Happy Hour on the 16. You heard earlier that Greg Biffle is having trouble getting the car to pick up and run. And right now he's in a gaggle of cars with Brian Vickers right there. Let's listen to the radio once again.
We'll probably get the pump changed out tonight, send it up to the engine shop and see if it's good or not. And if it's still good, then yeah, we need to change everything else. Still vapor locking, trying to get up to speed. Yeah, first lap, it's not running the whole first lap. It was above 6, so I kept going, but the motor's not running.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a really a nagging problem that they're going to have to find out what it is. And I still go back to the suction side of the pump. If that thing has a leak in a line or even a pinhole in it there, you won't see it. It'll actually pull air right there, and they're going to have to go through that whole system, I mean, piece by piece, and find it. Maybe Tim can help us down in our Craftsman Tech garage with some more of the parts and pieces. Tim?
Thanks so, Andy. You know, the pickup's located over in the right rear corner, and this hose affixes to the bottom of the check valve. And there's a bulkhead right here that most of the guys literally weld in. But the next line comes off the top of the check valve, and it comes over to the fuel pump. Excuse me, the fuel filter. And that fuel filter, if it's got an O-ring that's collapsed, or like Andy says, the least little hole right there, it's easier to suck the air through the system than it is fuel. So if you got a hole in it, it's going to suck air and not the fuel.
And we've got just a few minutes left here in happy hour, and all but 12 cars are out on the track right now as Greg Biffle continues to try and figure out their situation. He's 16th as we get our first chance to check in on Kevin Harvick. He is 18th right now.
I think Kevin and his team expected to really come here and do well. It's a track similar banking at Atlanta. They had an exceptional car there, especially in the long run.
Had a good car last week. I expected this team to really be on fire here.
Joey Logano leading that freight train, and Brian Vickers. And also in there is David Reagan in the 6th, and the 00 of David Rudiman.
Yeah, David Reagan and his UPS Ford, a great run last week. Came home 7th, one of their best runs of the year. Trying to carry that momentum in here to Charlotte. David Rudiman, of course, won the race here back in May. See his car stepping out a little bit in the back.
And of course, that was a rain-shortened event. And I'm sorry I mentioned that word. Hopefully we don't see any of it tonight or tomorrow night. So far, so good. Ryan Newman on the high side. Harvick on the low. And how about the Busch brothers? Well, it looks like Kyle wants to dust off Kurt.
Yeah, not much contest there.
Yeah, now we heard the lady last night talking about the handwriting stuff, that they were very similar, but when they got on the racetrack, there could be some problems with those two. So they better be careful.
We've seen that here at Charlotte.
That's right.
Yeah, it's okay if I beat up on my own brother, just don't anybody else try it. I know that old routine. How about Tony Stewart? There he is in the 14. Casey Mears not putting up much action on this particular pass.
No, Casey with a really good run also last week. He ended up 11th, but had a better car than that all day.
In the pit road.
But he hasn't been up to speed here the entire time. Didn't have a particularly good qualifying effort, but hopefully they'll get it figured out before tomorrow night.
So happy hour is over. So everybody has now gotten their last chance, and as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, you're at the top of the charts, you're very happy, and if it's not, it's, well, if you're in the toilet, then it's not so happy.
Not so happy, but there's a lot of happy guys out there.
Well, Jimmy Johnson and Chad have been pretty happy all weekend, haven't they?
Jimmy Johnson should be very happy. He's been the quickest all weekend long so far. And he's led the most races here, 15. David Pearson right behind him with 14. And that gives me a chance to say I wish David Pearson would have been elected to the Hall of Fame. I won't get on any soapbox because the other 5 are certainly deserving as well. But if there was never a Richard Petty, we'd be calling David Pearson the king. That's all I'll say. He'll get in, though. NASCAR Banking 500 is going to be on tomorrow, 7 Eastern on ABC. Sprint Cup Series will be at the halfway point. Coming up next, we've got NASCAR Nationwide action. And, of course, we'll start it off with Countdown with Alan Bestwick and the guys down in the pit studio. And then, of course, we'll have NASCAR Now, 10 a.m. tomorrow and 12:45 a.m. late night Saturday. Both those on ESPN2. Stay with us. We'll be back to wrap things up here and get ready for the NASCAR Nationwide Series event. Well, Ryan Ryan Newman's day is almost over. He's getting ready to get into the Nationwide car, and he'll be racing in just a matter of moments as we take a look at practice positions. And oh my, look at again. Jimmy and Mark running 1-2. Juan Pablo Montoya 26th in this final practice session. What are the biggest surprises in your mind?
One big surprise is Kurt Busch 36th. I just thought he'd be a lot faster than that. And Carl Edwards 32nd.
And there you see Greg Biffle 16th. Let's get an update on his situation, Jamie.
Well, he ended up 16th on the board, and they tried to work through the issues. You came in, guys were working fast. What did you guys get finished there at the end?
Well, we don't know. We think we got a fuel pressure problem, fuel delivery problem, which is kind of unusual. It's almost like it's vapor locking, but it's so cold here. So we really don't know what's going on. They're gonna take the fuel pump off and take it to the engine shop and test it tonight. That's one nice thing about being at home here. And if they don't find anything, we'll probably change the fuel cell and the fuel line tomorrow and fuel filter, everything, just to make sure we don't have any issues for tomorrow night.
A lot of work to do tonight. Now, we saw you change your helmet at the end there. What was that for?
Just putting a clear visor on. It's so much faster just to change helmets. Just put the spare helmet on for the last part of the session there. Getting a little bit dark out.
All right, thanks, Greg Biffle. He will start 23rd tomorrow, Marty.
All right, thank you, Shannon, or Jamie. We're going to be going to Shannon in just a matter of moments as this final session is over. And, of course, the big question is, does anybody have anything for Jimmie Johnson and Mark Martin tomorrow in this race, because they have been dominating all the practice and qualifying sessions. And we talked a little bit about that Hendrick power that has been helping so many of them. And in fact, let's hear from Mark Martin. Shannon has caught up with him.
Mark Martin second on the speed charts. Talking to your team during this practice session, they said you seemed pretty happy with the car. What exactly were you guys working on for the last few hours?
Oh, we were trying a few little different things, but you know, I was happy from the very start. Our car is really good. It's going to be fun. I wish we were racing tonight.
Well, speaking of tonight, just want to know what the track conditions are like. Last night it was a green track. It was a little bit colder, and of course we had some rain. So what are the conditions like right now out there?
It's starting to slick up a little bit. It was obscene last night for the grip that we had. And it's starting to slick up a little bit and get a little bit more normal. You know, just having to search around on the racetrack a little bit and really make your car, tune your car in a little closer. We did some very fine, small A, B, you know, comparisons on some small things, and we'll just go with what we think is going to be the best. All of it ran good, and that's a good thing. We weren't chasing anything and never chased the balance or you know, had any problems.
Thanks, Mark. Good luck tomorrow.
Well, he mentioned obscene. Here's how obscene it was. 29 drivers were faster than the pole speed back in May.
Yeah, you see right here Tony Stewart talking to his crew chief, Darian Grubb, in the center. That's Bobby Hutchins with his back to us with a hat. He's one of the managers over there at Stewart Haas Racing. They're just doing a debrief right here. You know, Tony's going to give them all the information he can on all the changes that they made and how the car performed. Then they'll go back and analyze all this data and make a decision on what kind of setup to put in there for tomorrow.
Yeah, Tony had a really good qualifying effort last night. I think when you see him start up front, you really expect big things from this race team. But obviously there's a lot of conversation going on right there. Just going over, you know, what Tony felt like worked, and then the crew chief will take that back and they'll come to a decision on, hopefully it'll be a winning setup for tomorrow night.
Well, he was 12th fastest in this final practice in happy hour. So they'll, I'm sure, be in the mix, shall we say, as we get ready for the race tomorrow. And as now things here at Lowe's Motor Speedway go into high gear to shift from Sprint Cup action to get ready for our 31st race in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. There are the cars already with Carl. And if you weren't with us for qualifying, yes, that is a mouse on the side. It's for ortho pest control. So Carl's been taking a little bit of ribbing, shall we say, about the mouse. And who knows, could be the first time that we ever had a mouse go to victory lane if Carl can do it. But as we pointed out, if you were with us with qualifying, Jack Roush has had the pole 10 times here and has never won with those 10 pole positions. Closest he came was with Mark Martin years ago when they finished in second. So we got to shift gears, sort of get ready for the next step tonight, which will be the Nationwide race. Looks like it's going to be a dandy, guy.
Oh, it's going to be a dandy. You got a bunch of fast cars out there, and the Gibbs cars starting back just a little bit. Roush cars up front. Be a lot of action.
Kyle Busch might start back there a little ways, but he's not going to be long getting to the front. He was fast in practice yesterday. I think that he's the man to watch here tonight, as he always is. I know I'm really going out on a limb there, but we got some other guys we're going to watch. With David Gillen being that one car right there. He had a great qualifying effort for no time in that car.
Yeah, don't forget about Mike Bliss. He's driving the 11 car this week. He won the race in May, driving for Phoenix Racing in that one car.
So we've sort of given you a sneak preview as to what we're going to be zeroing in on as far as the beginning of the race. Of course, as it always unfolds, you never know. We could have some surprises, which could then lead to some changes in the points championship, such as last week. There's Jason Leffler as he's making his way over for driver introductions, and we're going to make our way from high above down to the pit studio, where Alan Beswick, Rusty Wallace, and Brad Doherty are standing by to get things underway with Countdown as we go racing in the NASCAR Nationwide Series.